even by the time we come back from Davos, the time we go to the budget, some of those issues have been addressed or are in the process of being addressed in a very concrete way. We are not going to wait until the end of the term of office of the 5th administration. There's going to be action immediately.
It could be very difficult. Tens of thousands of job losses in an election year. It could make this government very unpopular indeed.
Well, the action required may not necessarily require the rationalization of the state-owned companies themselves in terms of employment. And so the direction towards which we are looking does not entail that. It entails addressing as of immediate effect the capital structure, because the biggest problem facing Eskom in particular, and a number of other state-owned companies, including Sanral, Prasa, Dinel, and others, is the capital structure and the future funding model. How do we make them financially sustainable? We will address the governance issues with regard to all these state-owned companies as well as management issues.
Minister Abakile Bloomberg News. You have said before that Eskom is probably the one utility that keeps you awake at night. Do you have a timeline, much the same as you did with SAA, as to when you will do things like either replace the board or put it into good standing financially as well?
You know, the timeline which I had had for Eskom by Tuesday afternoon changed completely yesterday. And the challenges that the utility faces are of such a nature that I have requested we should act with the utmost urgency and bring forward the timelines which we had projected. I would like to see that action. I'm not going to rest until we see concrete action with regard to Eskom. And so I can't say at the present moment what would be the timelines with regard to what actions, but all I can say is that the urgency to act with speed has been magnified by the problems which were brought to our attention most recently.
Colleagues, please don't be shy to speak about Davos also. Lubabala Mashipana from SABC Africa. Minister, I just want you to clarify for us the Treasury's involvement in the NPA investigations on the 17 cases.
Well, the NPA is under the Department of Justice, so we can only be involved to the extent that we must provide information about the issues which are under investigation. You will know that with regard to some of the issues which could or may not come into the attention of the into the focus of the NPA, if we are asked to provide information with regard to the investigations we've conducted before, we will provide that information. But what we have said, what I said the day before yesterday, and I wish to reiterate today, is that the Treasury supports the action which is being undertaken by the NPA and the Asset Forfeiture Unit. We will cooperate with them in every way possible and will provide them any information they may require from us.
So there's no direct involvement, because when I spoke to the NPA spokesperson yesterday, he mentioned that Treasury has an involvement somewhere, somehow, in the 16 investigations under the recovery of that 50 billion.
We are not an investigation unit. We are not a prosecution unit. We are also, and we therefore can only be involved insofar as providing information. As I say, we are going to provide any information required of us by the NPA, and it could very well be that some of the actions they are undertaking are based on the information and the reports that were, and investigations that were done previously by the National Treasury. All of those will be available as record to assist the NPA in conducting its work.
The next question is definitely about Davos.
What is your plan to attracting foreign direct investment into South Africa in Davos, and what is your view regarding property rights in South Africa, considering what happened at H&M recently? Thank you.
Obviously, the Davos platform is a very critical platform for South Africa, not only to profile South Africa, but to also showcase our continent as a whole. South Africa remains a gateway into the African continent. We provide a critical platform for many international investors to access the African market. We are working very hard to ensure that we streamline our visa regime in order to to provide headquarters facilities for many international investors that wish to come into the African continent. We will continue to highlight the positives about South Africa with regard to our deep capital markets, the fact that we have got a very advanced and modern financial system. We've got the most modern infrastructure capacity on the continent. We've got a number of other capabilities that will assist international investors to be able to access the African continent. So we will showcase all of those, but together with doing that, we will be showcasing the rest of the African continent, working with our other African partners in regard to that. I will be seeking bilateral engagements during Davos on the sidelines of the various formal platforms, where I will meet with the ministers of finance of Argentina, of Germany, to discuss the Compact with Africa program, which was adopted during Germany's presidency of the G20. But I will also be seeking to engage with the ministers of finance of the various African countries that have joined the Compact, so that we can harmonize our participation there, ensure that there are concrete benefits, identify the lessons to be learned, and see what we need to take forward to the Argentinian presidency of the G20, so that we carry on those engagements. But South Africa will be engaging very actively at various platforms through the business leadership that will be there, the deputy president, other ministers that will be there to showcase South Africa. And there shouldn't be any doubt among international investors that South Africa is both open for business and, as is the case in the Constitution, respects property rights. Much as there are serious, there was serious omission by H&M in terms of its advert. Its advert was extremely offensive to all African people, globally, not only in South Africa. It was offensive, it was an insult. We note that they have apologized, and we would want to request all citizens of our country to rather engage with H&M through the legal and constitutional platforms that are provided. And I think any South African can take legal action against H&M if they feel that they need to do so, because any other unconstitutional and extra legal action taken against H&M undermines South Africa's profile as a country that is open for business, and undermines the constitution as well as the legal framework of our country. And therefore, to the extent that there are people who may, out of being offended, have committed crimes, we do think and expect that our law enforcement agencies are going to take action required in order to protect the fundamentals of our constitution.
Minister, the business also want to add a comment to investment messenger.
If you insist. For us, I think we've got an amazingly good story to tell. First, that the winds of change have landed, that this country has always, without fail, met its constitutional obligations to hold regular elections. And these have happened always peacefully. That is the political, economic stability that is required. We'll also be adding the fact that when one looks at the US of A and indeed the 28-member EU, and indeed the Southeast Asian countries, there is no country in the world that provides the return on investment, the return on average capital employed and indeed the opportunities that are presented, like South Africa. Remember, during the contagion effect and indeed 2008 global recession, South Africa only contracted in 2009 by 0.9. 2010, we spent 77 billion to bring ourselves out of recession. Yes, we are now below investment grade. Since the 54th elections, as business, we have never been more hopeful, working very hard, talking to our compatriots, but also spending our own capital to invest in our own country. That is the message that we'll be saying in Davos. We'll acknowledge the challenges that we have, especially in state-owned enterprises, and to be more explicit, I mean, Eskom faces about a 350 billion rand overhang. In the next few days, they need to come up with 20 to 23 billion rands to meet their covenants. Most of those are covered by banks who are our members. Our conversation with them is, let's act with prudence, with understanding, and let's give them a little bit of slack, because what we want is when government acts, that we demonstrate through the board's leadership and the EXCO that there is indeed integrity, impartiality, and objectivity, that this notion of good governance, of probity and stewardship is understood, the duty of care, skill, faith, and diligence, but also is being addressed.
I think it's important on this issue that we highlight very, very strongly the fact that the political instability, that is the political uncertainty, which has been spoken about in recent months, especially as we were preparing for the National Conference of the ruling party, has been settled by the National Conference. We now have a leadership. In actual fact, the conference took place. There is a leadership. That leadership is committed to unity, to national renewal, to addressing jobs as the utmost priority for the country, and ensuring that the economy grows on a faster, more inclusive and bigger basis. And that leadership, as the Deputy President was highlighting earlier today, is committed to resolving the policy uncertainties. So the political uncertainty has been resolved. And then the next stage is to deal with the policy uncertainties so that we can be able to move forward. Because the slow growth in our economy is affected in large measure, not by external concerns, but by concerns regarding domestic factors. And as soon as we address those and unblock the policies that have resulted in disinvestments or in slow investments, we think that the real potential growth rate of our economy will be realized. And in actual fact, we may actually have a much better economic performance by the end of this year than has been projected previously.
I think I just want to echo some of those sentiments. Is that during the course of last year, is that the political uncertainty certainly was influencing the policy environment. We were experiencing that at a number of levels on very, very key policy issues, is that there was a vacillation between different positions and clearly no direction in place. We do think now that there's greater certainty, that we're getting messages of unified positions and coherent approaches, that is going to make a significant difference to the investment climate. I think if one just looks at some of the issues that we've been challenged with, the integrated energy plan, the integrated resource plan, our whole energy framework going forward has not been settled. And in fact, last year it was bouncing back and forward. We now have the opportunity to move that forward in a coherent direction. Issues around land, we know that the conference has made resolutions in that regard. We now need to get into serious engagement as social partners. And we know that there have been sectors that have been disabled by policy uncertainty, the mining sector, for instance. So we are seeing that now with the new leadership in place, is that there is an opportunity for us to reconstitute, to go back to NEDLAC on many of these issues, and to do the work that we have started in that regard, and to really create an environment in which businesses feel safe to invest, and to unlock the potential of the country.
Okay, I have I have to close. Minister has to run, so we'll just take 2 questions and then we have to close. We'll take one there.
This is Sago from Business Report. Just a quick one. Representatives of Labour going to join you, and if so, why are they not here?
Thank you, and then we'll take another one in just 2 seconds. I didn't see it in your hand, so I'll give it a go.
Milani Krunabal from Fin24. I just want to ask, Minister, on Tuesday you said that you were meeting lenders in the afternoon. When you said the timeline changed on Tuesday, was it that after you met the lenders, and did they make any new demands about ESCOM after you met them that changed that timeline?
Well, the DG will take the Labour one. Let me deal with the one you've just asked. No, it wasn't based on the discussions with the lenders. It was the changing of the timelines and the heightening of the urgency to act with regard to ESCOM has been based on some of the new information which was brought to my attention yesterday, which requires us, as I say, to act with the utmost urgency. The lenders themselves have been highlighting as early as October last year, when we were at the IMF World Bank annual meetings, that we need to act. We've been trying to deal with these issues, but I think we've reached the stage where we cannot continue to be gradualist in addressing the problems that ESCOM is facing. We need to act. I think some of the headlines you have seen in some of the media today highlight the need for us to address the problem that is ESCOM, because it would seem that there are people perhaps at the board or the management who really don't seem to understand the challenges that we are facing, the urgency we have, or who live in their own world with regard to those challenges. Quite frankly, the national fiscus is not going to be able to step in to bail ESCOM out. Nobody would have the quantum of resources required to bail ESCOM out should anything horrible happen. As the CEO of the DBSA was saying earlier, if anything happened, by the time we come back from Davos, there would be no currency, there would be no government, there would be no country if ESCOM went belly up. We therefore need to act now, and so that's the issue.
On the question of labor, I think it's important to understand WEF and how WEF operates and how WEF is structured. And this is a pre-WEF briefing. Essentially, we only, and this time only once a year, before you go to Davos, we invite for this breakfast only participants who have registered to go to WEF. And because WEF is a membership-based organization, so governments, in our case, South Africa, participates on invitation. We just happen to be fortunate over the last number of years that we have always been invited to WEF Davos, to the annual meetings, and that, as you all know, that we co-partner with WEF when we host WEF Africa every second alternate year. So understanding in that context that it's not because of our making that WEF, Labour is not participating, or Labour is not in WEF. Individual members could or are invited. Now again, if you look at WEF and its structure, there are various global agenda councils in the structure of WEF. You find that and there's hundreds and hundreds of these small little agenda councils that meet throughout the year in various locations in the world, etc. Now you find that there's a global agenda for Africa. There's a global agenda for the future of work. There's a global agenda for nanotechnology, as an example. You find that individual South Africans, including who are labor participants or labor representatives, play maybe a role in this global agenda council. So for a question that says, why is labor not here? It is a WEF kind of prerogative to invite labor to participate in Davos. But what we've done in the past, we have made sure that when we host WEF Africa, for instance, that labor is invited. we insist that Labour participates and also play a role in various sessions that WEF would have put out together. So yes, we are partnering, and it is important for us. Outside WEF, by the way, we engage with Labour all the time as part of the CEO initiative, and in particular the YES project that featured prominently in this breakfast meeting. Labour plays a role because we have to structure how this YES initiative is going to pan out, and how these young people, 1 million young people, are going to begin opportunities, internship opportunities. So yes, Labour outside the WEF environment in this space plays a major role, and both business, Labour and civil society participate, including, by the way, outside NEDLEC. Because in NEDLEC, some of these conversations that we have really take place, and we are focused and engaged with Labour in ensuring that we build a storyline together and also build essentially what is South Africa together with Labour. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Thank you to our panel, and thank you to members of the media, ministers.
Just one more.
You have to walk with them and try asking why as well.
I think we need to go back to you're becoming a problem.
Why is